Have you ever wondered how a single moment, just one unexpected encounter, can change the course of your life forever? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to NarratEzy English, the channel where we help you learn English through engaging stories, improving your language naturally while enjoying every moment. Today, I have a special story for you. A beautiful love story full of sudden romance, a little misunderstanding, and ultimate happiness. This tale is perfect for those who love romantic stories with emotional depth, while also picking up advanced English phrases and expressions along the way. So, grab your coffee, relax, and let's dive into a world where love arrives suddenly, hearts face challenges, and rain holds more than just water. It holds destiny. Chapter 1. The Broken Car. The rain was falling steadily, washing the city streets with a silver glow. Cars rushed past, their headlights reflecting on the wet pavement like streams of liquid fire. On the side of the road, a small white car had stopped. Its hazard lights blinked nervously, as if the car itself were calling for help. Inside sat Elena, tapping the steering wheel with frustration. She had been on her way home from work, already tired, when the engine coughed, sputtered, and finally gave up. She tried the ignition again. Nothing. She sighed. Why now? Of all nights, why now? Just then, through the blur of raindrops on her window, she saw a figure approaching. A young man, carrying no umbrella, only a jacket thrown over his head. He knocked gently on the glass. Need help? He asked, his voice calm despite the storm. Elena hesitated for a second. The city had taught her to be careful, but something in his eyes, steady, kind, without rush, gave her a strange sense of safety. She rolled down the window slightly. My car just died, she admitted. I don't know what to do. He smiled lightly, rain dripping from his hair. Good thing you met me then. I'm Daniel. Within minutes, Daniel was under the hood, checking wires and connections. The rain poured harder, soaking his shirt, but he didn't complain. Elena stepped out with her umbrella, holding it above him. Their shoulders almost touched. She noticed how close they were, how naturally their movements aligned, as though they had done this 1,000 times before. Finally, Daniel closed the hood. Battery's gone. I can't fix it here, but I can call a tow truck for you. Relief filled her chest. She looked at him, really looked. A stranger, yes, but also, perhaps, a beginning. For in the middle of the storm, under a single umbrella, two lives had quietly crossed paths. Chapter 2. Umbrella Conversations. The tow truck had been called, and the two of them stood waiting near the broken car. The rain showed no sign of mercy. It splashed against the ground in endless waves, filling the night with a rhythm that almost felt like music. Daniel glanced at Elena's umbrella. It was small, hardly enough for one person. Yet, without thinking twice, she had tilted it so both of them could stand under its cover. Their shoulders brushed every now and then, and each time Elena felt a quiet shiver travel through her. Strange weather for early spring, Daniel said, breaking the silence. His voice was calm, as though he had no hurry, no worries. Elena smiled faintly. Maybe the city needs a good wash. They both laughed softly, and for a moment, it no longer felt like two strangers talking. It felt like two old friends meeting after years apart. The conversation flowed easily. They spoke of ordinary things. Her work in publishing, his job in architecture, the books they had recently read, the music that still made them feel alive. What surprised Elena most was not his words, but the way he listened. Few people in her life had ever listened so attentively, as though every sentence she spoke carried value. A gust of wind suddenly pulled the umbrella sideways, nearly tossing it out of her hand. Daniel reached up quickly, steadying it with his own. Their hands touched on the handle, warm against warm. They froze for a moment, surprised by the closeness. The rain hammered down around them. But inside that small circle of fabric, there was safety, even intimacy. Elena looked at him, a question forming in her mind that she dared not ask. Why does it feel like I've known you forever? And Daniel, though he said nothing, felt the very same. Chapter 3. Coffee and Laughter. A few days later, Elena found herself walking into a cozy little cafe, the kind with warm lights and the faint scent of cinnamon. She had agreed to meet Daniel there, almost on a whim. The memory of the rainy evening and the quiet connection they had shared had stayed with her. She wasn't usually so impulsive, yet something about him had sparked a boldness she hadn't felt in years. Daniel was already at a corner table, a smile lighting up his face as he spotted her. "You made it," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "I did," Elena replied, settling in. "And I see you found the best seat in the cafe." They laughed, the sound mingling with the soft jazz playing in the background. The hours slipped by unnoticed. Coffee turned into desserts, and desserts into long walks along the riverbank. They shared stories, some funny, some serious, some so personal that it felt like doors in their hearts had quietly opened. Elena realized how easily she laughed in his presence, how naturally she could speak her thoughts without filtering every word. Daniel, too, seemed more himself, relaxed and playful, as though meeting her had erased some unseen burden. At one point, a stray dog wandered near them, shaking off rain. Elena chuckled, leaning closer. "It seems even the city's animals like your company." Daniel grinned, brushing a damp lock of hair from his forehead. "Or maybe it's the effect of being with you." Her heart skipped. She looked away quickly, pretending to examine the river. The sudden intensity of his words made her both nervous and thrilled. They continued walking, hands brushing occasionally, fingers almost touching, until neither could resist the gentle grasp that finally intertwined them. By the time they returned to the cafe, night had settled over the city, lights shimmering on wet streets. In that moment, Elena knew something had changed, something sudden, unexpected, yet inevitable. Love, it seemed, had arrived with the rain, and she could no longer deny its presence. Chapter 4. Hearts on Fire. Days turned into weeks, and Elena and Daniel found themselves caught in a whirlwind of emotions neither had expected. Every message, every call, every stolen glance seemed to ignite something deeper, a warmth that was impossible to ignore. One evening, Daniel invited Elena to a quiet rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. The sky was painted in shades of violet and gold as the sun dipped below the horizon, and the lights of the city began to twinkle like stars come alive. "You have a habit of showing up in my thoughts at the most inconvenient times," Daniel said softly, his eyes reflecting the sunset. Elena smiled, feeling a blush rise to her cheeks. "Is that your way of saying I'm impossible to forget?" He reached across the table, his fingers brushing hers. The simple touch sent shivers down her spine. It was in these small moments, an accidental touch, a shared laugh, that their hearts spoke louder than words ever could. As the night grew darker, Daniel suggested a walk. They wandered along quiet streets, the distant hum of traffic providing a gentle soundtrack. At a park near the river, he stopped and looked at her intently. "Elena," he whispered, "I've never believed in love at first sight. Until now." Her breath caught. "Daniel," she murmured, unsure of what to say, but she didn't need words. Their eyes locked, and in that silent exchange, a fire ignited, a deep, consuming emotion that neither wanted to fight. Under the dim glow of street lamps, they held each other for the first time, a tentative embrace that quickly became more, hearts racing in unison. The world around them disappeared, leaving only the warmth of each other's presence. That night, Elena realized that sudden love could be overwhelming, unstoppable, and beautiful all at once. It was frightening, yes, but also exhilarating, a fire she never wanted to extinguish. Chapter 5. Shadows of Doubt. For several weeks, Elena and Daniel's love felt effortless, almost dreamlike. But as the excitement of new romance settled, small shadows began creeping into their otherwise bright world. One rainy afternoon, Elena walked past a cafe near her office and froze. Through the glass, she saw Daniel sitting with a woman she didn't recognize. They laughed together, close, as if sharing a private joke. Her heart sank. Confusion and anger swirled in her chest. Why hadn't he mentioned her? Why wasn't she part of this? Without waiting for explanations, Elena turned and walked away, her umbrella shielding both the rain and her hurt. That evening, Daniel called her repeatedly, but Elena didn't answer. Every message he sent, heartfelt and sincere, went unread. He could sense the shift immediately, the sudden coldness that had replaced their warmth. He worried, confused. The woman she had seen was actually his sister, Claire, who had flown in for a surprise visit. He had hoped to keep it secret for a small moment of fun, never imagining Elena would misinterpret. Meanwhile, Elena's mind raced with worst-case scenarios. She replayed the scene over and over, the laughter, the closeness, every detail magnified in her imagination. Doubt, like a shadow, began to cloud the radiant love they had shared so easily. That night, Elena lay awake, questioning everything. Could love this sudden, this intense, truly survive the smallest misstep? Her heart ached with a mix of longing and fear. Meanwhile, Daniel stared at his phone, writing message after message, praying she would understand. Love, he realized, could be as fragile as it was fiery. The storm outside mirrored the storm inside both their hearts, unseen, relentless, but not without hope. Chapter 6. The Pain of Silence. Days stretched into what felt like endless silence. Elena avoided Daniel's calls and messages, each unanswered text a small echo of her wounded pride. The once bright joy of their sudden romance now seemed distant, replaced by uncertainty and frustration. Daniel, on the other hand, found himself haunted by her absence. Every place he went reminded him of her laughter, her gaze, the gentle way she had brushed rain from his hair. The memories of their first meetings, the umbrella in the storm, their shared walks, all of it replayed relentlessly. Neither wanted to admit it, but the pain of not speaking to each other cut deeper than any argument could have. Elena questioned her own actions, wondering if she had overreacted. Daniel wrestled with his own guilt, wishing he had revealed the truth sooner. One rainy evening, they both found themselves walking near the old bridge where they had first met. The coincidence, or perhaps fate, was too strong to ignore. They didn't speak at first, just standing there, the wind whipping around them, the rain soaking their coats, they shared a silent acknowledgement of the distance their hearts had traveled. Elena's eyes glistened. I don't know if I can trust what I thought I saw, she whispered, voice trembling. Daniel stepped closer, careful yet firm. Elena, you saw the wrong thing. It wasn't what you imagined. Please, let me explain. Her hands trembled, fingers fidgeting with the umbrella. I just don't know anymore. Everything felt so perfect. And now? Her voice faltered. Daniel gently held her hands, the warmth seeping through. Everything is still real, Elena. Our love is still real. You just need to trust me. The rain poured around them, but inside that small circle of shared space, the world seemed to pause. Their hearts ached from longing, yet hope flickered. Sometimes silence says more than words, and now it was time for truth to speak. Chapter 7. Truth in the Rain. Elena stood on the old bridge, staring at the river below, its waters reflecting the city lights like scattered diamonds. The rain had slowed to a gentle drizzle, and the night air carried a crispness that hinted at clarity. Daniel approached cautiously, holding an umbrella over both of them. Elena, he began, his voice steady but tender, please, just hear me out. She looked at him, her eyes shadowed with hurt. I don't know if I can, Daniel. I saw you as someone else. I felt betrayed. He shook his head gently. It wasn't what you think. That was my sister Claire. She came for a surprise visit. I didn't tell you because I wanted it to be a small, fun surprise, not realizing it would hurt you instead. Elena's heart raced. Relief collided with lingering hurt. So, it was all a misunderstanding? Yes, he said softly, his eyes never leaving hers. You mean more to me than anything. I would never hurt you intentionally. Tears formed in her eyes. I'm sorry for doubting you. Love came so suddenly. I wasn't sure I could trust my own heart. Daniel smiled gently, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. Elena, love is frightening because it's powerful, but it's also beautiful because it's true. And what we have, it's real. For a moment, the world around them seemed to disappear. Only the gentle sound of rain and the soft glow of the city remained. Slowly, Elena stepped closer, her hands finding his, their fingers intertwined naturally, as if they had been meant to fit together all along. I missed you, she whispered. And I missed you, he replied, pulling her into a warm embrace. The chill of the night, the fear of losing each other, all melted away in that single perfect moment. Under the rain, truth had returned, stronger than any doubt. Their hearts, once shadowed by misunderstanding, now burned brighter than ever. Chapter 8. The Proposal. The city sparkled under a gentle drizzle as Elena and Daniel returned to the old bridge, the very place where their story had begun. The rain had slowed to a soft mist, and the umbrella they shared seemed almost symbolic of their journey together. Shelter from the storms, protection, and warmth. Daniel stopped midway across the bridge and turned to face her. His eyes shone with a mixture of nervousness and hope. Elena, he said softly, do you remember the night we first met here? She smiled, a faint blush rising to her cheeks. Of course, I could never forget. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Her breath caught. Elena, love came to us suddenly, unexpectedly, but it was never anything less than real. Through the rain, through doubt, and through silence, my heart has never wavered. You are my storm and my calm, my joy and my home. Will you marry me? Tears welled up in Elena's eyes, and for a moment, the world seemed suspended. Her heart raced, memories of laughter, coffee dates, rainy walks, and quiet glances flooding her mind. Everything led to this single moment. "Yes," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "Yes, Daniel, I will." He slipped the ring onto her finger, and they held each other close, letting the gentle rain wash over them. In that embrace, every fear, every misunderstanding, every fleeting doubt dissolved. Only love remained, steady, true, and eternal. As they pulled back slightly, their eyes met, and a smile spread across both faces. The bridge, once a simple crossing, had become the witness to their story, a story of sudden love, trials, trust, and ultimate happiness. That night, under the city lights and the soft patter of rain, Elena and Daniel began the next chapter of their lives together, hearts entwined forever. Love, they realized, was not just a feeling, it was a journey, a bridge, and sometimes a little rain.